Well, hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our webinar on how to tackle the Harvard Business School application. There are many of you out there who want to apply to Harvard. In a typical year, the school may get as many as 10,000 applications and accepts probably 12, 13% at most in a given year. So it's highly selective. And to help you get over the hurdle, we have the one and only Karla Cohen, a former associate director of admissions at Harvard Business School, who is now a director at Fortuna Admissions and one of the members of the dream team of former MBA gatekeepers at the top business schools. So welcome.
Thank you, John. It's great to be here, and I appreciate that introduction.
And at Harvard, we have some new essays this year. Harvard doesn't typically change things very often, so this is a big deal. Let's go through them one by one. How do you suggest tackling them? There's a business-minded essay, for example. How do you tackle that?
It's a great question. And so that's the first question that they have is to really focus on, my advice is to focus on key moments and experiences that have shaped your career. And so this one is very much a short-term and long-term goal articulation, where you're going to map out a plan. And so it's important to really zero in on what are those moments that have pointed you in the direction of the trajectory that you're planning to go on, and give a little bit of context to help them understand your decision making there. So much about what exists at HBS is how to make better decisions. In fact, that's what the whole case method is predicated on. So they want to get a taste of how are you going to make this decision with respect to this investment of going to HBS if you're lucky enough to be admitted. And so that would be, I think, the core element is to clearly articulate the specific moments that have shaped that, and then help them understand where the momentum is coming from.
Right. And then there's a leadership focused essay. How do you tackle that one?
Yeah, this one is, again, Harvard is a place that even though the essays have changed, it's going to be looking for community engagement, appetite and aptitude, and leadership is the core measures to determine who's a good fit. And so this is where you can really flex on your leadership style or moments where you've led initiatives. This doesn't necessarily have to be work related. So especially given that the first one is going to be almost certainly professionally focused, this one you can show both perhaps the community engagement side as well as certain moments that you have really shown within whatever spaces that you've been in. They want to see individuals that for whatever you do in whatever environment, it is better for your presence. And so usually this takes on the form of demonstrating examples of leadership. So whether that is you saw an opportunity that others didn't within a nonprofit that you're supporting, or you came up with an idea and got it off the ground, there's many different ways that leadership can show up. There's formal and informal. So my advice is to look at, it doesn't necessarily have to show up on a resume. It can be solving problems with colleagues. It can be smoothing over disagreements, or it can be improving morale, increasing engagement within a team. Positive attitude can be a force for strong leadership as well as optimism. But
Those are great examples.
Yeah, these are tight. So you have only, you don't have the length that you did before.
No. And then there's the growth-oriented essay, the third one.
Yeah, John, I think you and I shared this.
That?
Yeah, this is our favorite, I think, between the two
my
of us.
favorite, actually.
Absolutely, because you're going to demonstrate creativity. When did creativity lead you to pursue something different, interesting, that pushed you outside your comfort zone? And how did that change you? So you want to think about examples. And this is, again, the theme throughout all of these is the show versus the telling. So you want to come up with these examples that demonstrate these ideas that you're looking to convey. It's much easier it's easier to say that this, interesting idea or this curiosity was what inspired my involvement in X, or you can just detail. So specify the situation and talk about the different steps that you took that led you in that direction, and then show the reflection here. You have a bit of space to talk about how this opened up your mind. Maybe you're seeing something in a new way for the first time, whether that's a challenge that you faced, a problem. And so this can come from any area of your life. And so I think that's why it is an opportunity to really stand out.
Yeah, totally. So now, is there a recommended structure for these essays, or should you be free form?
I would recommend, because it's both tight, just to organize yourself. You've got to be disciplined to use a structure. The standard is to do introduction, body, and conclusion. So essentially in the introduction, you want to briefly sort of define the context as well as present the experiences that you've been through. And then you want to give it, the actions, decisions, and other elements that have made up the idea that you're introducing. And then you want to tie it all together at the end with the conclusion. So what did you learn from these experiences? This sounds a bit abstract, but I think it makes more sense in the context of, being able to just launch in with something. So it does feel a little bit like a mini traditional essay in that sense, but you want to have that structure, you want to be organized. And so that's how I would suggest approaching it.
And should they focus on work-related examples, or can you be very personal and outside of work, or what?
You can be personal, even when you're talking about professional experiences. You can reflect on, maybe there was a certain situation at work that really challenged you, and that could be something that inspired you to move up to the next level, or it can be something that inspired you to move to a different industry or firm. And so you can be personal about, and you want to be human. The most difficult part about, and I've said this many, many times, but it remains true. And especially there's been an increase in MBA applications. I know you guys reported on this recently, but
Yes.
you're going to have to really stand out. So being personal and drawing from the heart can be embedded in any of the essays that you're approaching, so that it both feels real because it's true. And so that personal side of it, what is really driving you? What is leading you to make the decisions that you're making? Where are you headed? At the end of the day, HBS is a place that wants to educate leaders who make a difference in the world. So that's a pretty personal thing, along with the, Mary Oliver poem that they always showcase with individuals around, like, what do you want to do with your one wild and precious life? This is a community. You're almost joining a family. So there's the personal elements can be enmeshed in it. Not every essay needs to be personal. You can have some that are more structured and focused in the sense that they don't necessarily go in that direction. But it helps to connect with the reader when you can be personal.
One thing that struck me about the new essays is how short they are. Like
Yeah,
the business-minded essay is only up to 300 words. The other two in leadership and growth limited to 250 words each. So is there actually room for storytelling here?
absolutely. So don't let the shortness or the length sort of parameters that they will, and they're tight, that this isn't just a suggested length.
Hmm.
You will not be able to go over. You will, input your text into the application form. So you have to be disciplined. That almost demands that if you're going to stand out, that you have to tell a story. You have to be better at kind of structuring and weaving in storytelling elements. You can start, any of these, or, I would suggest like using different tools, like whether it's dialogue or, a sort of hook element at the beginning of something to draw the reader in, to maintain their interest, and then also keep the story moving so that they're not falling asleep.
Okay, you've read thousands of MBA essays from people who are trying to get into Harvard Business School. What are the most common mistakes you've seen?
I think the most common mistakes that people make is that they repeat information that is
Uh,
already included in other parts of your application. So what I loved, that was really, this was pushed forward in the last, version of their essays, which is not lost on the readers now, which is, what more do you want us to know? And so keep that idea in mind too, that it's almost more helpful to start with the main application first, because you're going to give them a lot of information before they get to the essays. And so you don't want to just be rehashing things that they already know. You want these essays to be expansive. That's number one. I think the other element is that they try to focus only on professional, and it's a laundry list of successes. The forgotten element in a lot of these, and this is broadly for many MBA applications, is the power of stumbling. It may
hmm.
be that it's only focusing on successes. there's always concern when you would hear or look at an applicant where it's like, this is a little too perfect, right? Where it's like everything has always been smooth. You always knew exactly what you wanted to do and everything always worked out. That's not really how life works. And that's also not very interesting. And as
True.
many of the professors have talked about, it's the ability to adapt that, versus the strongest or fastest or smartest surviving, to, borrow from Darwinism. But that was something that was pressed forward by the school, is that they're looking for this adaptability quotient, and your best teachers can be failures. So that both shows vulnerability, which allows you to build trust with the reader and connect. You don't have to just, list your failures either, but you want to show some vulnerability there. So those are the two key things that I think a lot of folks will miss, and they look a little bit too brochure-like versus being human.
There are no perfect candidates, right? I mean, none. So any final tips here for a Harvard Business School bound applicant?
I think you want to be deeply reflective, as you're looking at what is different about me when I look at my peers. The mistake, too, to kind of circle back to the question that you just asked, but also in terms of guiding this process moving forward, is to have in mind that avoid the temptation to look like everybody else. There is this sense that, oh, my friend who got in, this was their strategy, so I want to apply a similar approach. And they don't want to see the same person again. The more distinctive you can be, as long as your goals align and the purpose of what you want to do with your life is also aligned with what HBS offers, which is a general management degree. It's not just leadership school. It is, they're great at leadership, but you want to make sure that you're able to show both that you are someone who is self-aware, self-awareness is critical, and that you're reflective on your experiences and have evidence to show that when you set your mind to something that you're able to accomplish it. That doesn't mean that everything always goes perfectly, but it's that combination of self-awareness that you can demonstrate at different parts of the application. So look at everything and take every piece of the application seriously. Don't just focus on the essays, although they are absolutely essential and critical and can be the defining factor. Oftentimes people will over-index on the essays and miss other opportunities to really sell themselves to the committee and to make an impact on the reader. So you want to be memorable, tell the truth. The truth always tracks. And remember that being vulnerable is powerful and can help level up your application. Don't be generic, don't be vague. I think if you're cliche, you fall into a trap of, you don't want anyone rolling their eyes. Like, I've heard this story a million times before. So
Right.
no one has lived any other person. Like, everyone has their own unique experiences. So really focus on the distinctiveness of the differences versus trying to blend in with the crowd.
That's great advice. So Karla, if a candidate wants to reach out or find out more from Fortuna Admissions, what should they do?
They should go to the website, the Fortuna website. They can contact us for a free consultation. And yeah, we hope to help support many of the folks out there who are confused by this process. It is very confusing. So appreciate you being here, John, and helping to elucidate a lot of these issues. And thanks for your time today.
Karla, thank you. So you've been listening to Karla Cohen, who is a director at Fortuna Admissions, the dream team of former MBA admission gatekeepers. Of course, Karla, as I mentioned before, was an associate director at HBS Admissions. So she knows the ins and outs. She's been on the committee. She's been in the room where decisions are made. Check her out. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants.